So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz break it down with the proper perspective. Shabazz break it down with the proper perspective. Break it down with the proper perspective.
All right, how y'all doing this morning, this afternoon, this evening, whatever time it is y'all checking in? You see me looking crazy on the screen? It's because obviously I'm stretching. But why am I stretching? I'm tired. Why am I tired? I mean, I had 8 hours of sleep. I should not be tired. But it seems like something going on with this environment, the weather. This weather, this is too much for me. I can't take it. It's cold. It's too cold. I don't like the cold. I ain't never liked the cold. And for a long time, I always just thought it's just me. It's just, I'm antisocial, which doesn't make sense. But, I just thought it was something wrong with me in the sense of you're just a curmudgeon. You don't like the spirit of the season. But I had to do some research. I had to do some digging. I come to the conclusion that it's a little bit more to this not liking the season than what meets the eye. I found out there's something called seasonal affective disorder or seasonal affect disorder. Y'all ever heard of that? I'm telling you. I'm like 8 hours of sleep. I'm eating healthy. I'm drinking green smoothies. I'm eating clean, lean protein, no carbs, or no bad carbs, I should say. I'm eating avocados for healthy carbs. I've replaced the rice with quinoa. It's like I'm doing all of these things that's supposed to be the right things to do for your health. And you see everybody online, I feel so much better. I have more energy. I'm just as tired as ever. I'm getting my rest. I'm even forcing some rest. I'm taking omega. I'm taking omega 3s. Passion flower extract is supposed to make you feel more relaxed. I see this. I'm taking sea moss. I had the fresh, in the jar come with the flavors, but I ran out of that. So I grabbed the pill supplements and whatnot. Look, I'm a health nut. So in that regard, like I'm always reading something. I'm always researching and looking up things. I do take my health somewhat seriously. Like I've been in better shape than I am now. So, I've been slacking. That's a confession. But I take my health, I take health consciousness seriously. Something ain't right. So I found out that there's this thing called seasonal affect disorder. And so, there's been some talk about mental health in the Black community. It's a growing thing. I don't think it's fully trending. I don't think it's become the norm to be out there on Front Street about mental health, but we getting there. So seasonal affect disorder that's the bulk of the show today. That's the bulk of what we're talking about. Now, if you're new to the channel, please hit the like button. Appreciate that if you do. Hit the like button. Make some comments down in the comments section. If you will notice, everybody likes to talk about that little bell that's down there somewhere. Click on that bell, and that's how you subscribe to the whole channel. And that way, anytime I do a new show, you get notified. So like, share, and subscribe. But back to this whole thing. You see, I got backaches. I got body pain, knees hurting. This ain't because I'm old. I am old. But this ain't because I'm old. This is the weather. This is the weather. This is my body's response to the weather. Seasonal affect disorders. It's not really talked about a lot. It's not talked about a lot anywhere. Black community or white community, non-black community. It is, however, known as the wintertime struggle. So I want to talk about seasonal affect disorder in general, but I also want to talk about it as it pertains to us, to the black community. You've heard the expression, whatever hits the nation as a whole, it kind of hits us double at best. So, when the nation is in a recession, black people are in a depression, excuse the pun, because seasonal affective disorder is a form of depression. But it's the type of depression that only comes about like during the wintertime struggle. So you could be a person that's normally chipper, normally happy, optimistic, and you feel good about life. And then the winter hits, those cold temperatures hit, and you don't feel too good no more. You start catching the blues, feeling down. But it's more serious than just feeling down. Things happen, life be lifing. And that'll get you down in general. But seasonal affect disorder is something where it's like, okay, you feeling down as if you might, as if you just caught news that your most cherished loved one has passed. But that's not the case. There is no bad news. There's no bad news that is hit your email and you ain't got a bad, nasty, negative text from a loved one. You just feel bad. You start to feel sleepy. You start to feel tired for no reason. Seasonal affective disorder. The goal of this episode is to shed light on how seasonal affective disorder especially impacts the black community. So we're going to be trying to emphasize cultural, systemic, and personal dimensions of seasonal affect disorder. If I've done my job correctly, I'll be able to provide some practical tools and resources for managing seasonal affective disorder. I'm going to stop saying all three of those big words and just call it SAD, because that's what they call it. Ladies and gentlemen, please, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about seasonal affective disorder. We're talking about SAD on the proper perspective. Like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Please like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment. Click that bell for notifications. We got this share screen going. Seasonal affective disorder, specifically in the black communities. Why I'm calling it an unseen struggle. It's hard enough to talk about mental health in the black community because everybody think, oh, something wrong with you. You're crazy. Either that or you get the absolute reverse gaslighting. Ain't nothing wrong with you. You just need to be happy. Yeah, that kind of get on my nerves too. So, we are exploring the impact of seasonal affective disorder on black communities. Seasonal affective disorder intersects uniquely with the challenges faced by black communities. And this presentation will explore cultural, systemic, and personal dimensions of SAD. What is the impact of seasonal change? Now, in general, of course, we all know we go from hot to warm to cool down to cold. Yes, so what? The very fact that we go to this cold season, SAD is tied to reduced sunlight. Duh. But this reduced sunlight affects serotonin levels. Serotonin is a chemical messenger that affects many psychological functions in the body. Mood, learning and memory, sleep, pain, sexual pleasure, blood clotting, bone density. So, as you can see, serotonin is a very important chemical in the body. You need high levels of serotonin just to function normally. They ought to put it in a bottle and sell it. But I joke. Okay, so aside from the jokes, when you have reduced sunlight, you have reduced serotonin levels. When you have reduced serotonin levels, You get an increase in sadness, fatigue. Your blood does not necessarily clot. If you don't have enough serotonin and you get a cut, your blood may not even clot properly. Thank God, or should I say, thank the goddess, thank the gods, at least in this part of the hemisphere, this cold climate temperature is cyclical. You got about 3 months. But once December hit, we got December, January, February, and then sometimes March before that sunlight, before Amin Ra starts to come back, before I-10 starts to shine. So during this whole time, relationships can suffer. Relationships can be impacted. Your presence might not be the same. You may work differently. You may work to a lower standard. All this type of stuff intersects. All this type of stuff works together, and not necessarily the best of ways. Science says, the medical field says, psychologists say serotonin levels can drop as much as 50% during the winter months. 50%. So just imagine, think about that. Think about just your regular base energy. If you need 100% energy to work, and just because it's December, just because it's cold outside, just because the weather has changed, your energy level tanks to 50%. How you going to feel? But what kind of work output could you have if you operating at only 50% if you're operating at only 50% of your optimal level? That's not a good thing. So I wanted to show this chart to visualize the impact of serotonin levels versus sunlight. So again, what were we saying? We said that SAD is tied to reduced sunlight, affecting serotonin levels. Reduced sunlight, no more I-10, no more Amen Ra. It can lead to sadness, fatigue. I would go further. Fatigue is a big one. So like I said, for me, when I started the program, I feel exhausted for no reason. Now, yeah, you could tie that to fatigue, but what does that really mean? That means in the middle of the day, 2 o'clock, I want to take a nap. And again, I'm the first to admit, look, I'm old. And the cliches about people getting old and being old. Old people like to sleep in the middle of the day. I ain't that kind of old. I ain't that type old yet. Now, this is not coming from a place of not wanting to embrace my actual age. This is just being realistic about it. I'm old. But on a regular basis, in the summer, in the spring, even in the fall, I'm not ready to take a nap at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm like, yo, what's up? What's going on? I'm ready to go. We can do this. We can do that. I can go over here, there. I can go to the gym, or I'll go to do a yoga class or what have you. In the winter, I'm like, it's over with. Even if I don't want to take the nap, I'm sitting down. If I'm sitting down, getting ready to turn on the television. If I'm getting ready to get myself ready, because I'm going to go out. I'm going to meet some people. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go check out a movie, whatever. Next thing I know, I'm like, oh, snap. I was asleep. Like, where did that nap come from? This is not making sense to me. It is now that I did the research. But before, I'm just like, I'm like, okay, maybe I need to go to the doctor. Maybe something else is going on. Maybe something is really, really medically wrong with me. But again, and I checked out. Nothing showing, no signs of anything out of the ordinary. This is all the weather. This is seasonal affect disorder. I wake up in the morning and I don't feel refreshed. I feel like I need a nap. I get going and I suffer through my morning. Even I get my cup of coffee and I get perked up a little bit by the coffee. And before you know it, I'm tired again. Fatigue. That's what fatigue is. And it borders on depression even. Especially when it goes on and on. Like, if it's just Monday, Okay, cool. But you look up and you be like, man, I've been like this all week. Next thing you know, it's Friday and you've been sleeping in the middle of the day all week. So like I said, to visualize the impact of serotonin levels versus sunlight exposure, the more sunlight you get, the more serotonin you have. The less sunlight you get, the less serotonin you have. So that's what the chart shows. So again, just the visualization. Now, so far what I've said, that's applicable to anyone. It's not a black thing, it's not a white thing, it's a human thing. Seasonal affect disorder affects all people. Although, well, let me say it this way. Seasonal affect disorder can affect all people. Now, research suggests maybe only 5% of the population will actually be diagnosed or will actually fall under the effect of experiencing sad. But still, and I know that's a small number, I'm a 5%er, y'all. Are you a 5%er? I know today's math. Anyhow, a little private joke, signaling. So, again, anybody can suffer from seasonal affective disorder. But as I alluded to at the beginning of the show, when you're black, you get double trouble. The economy is in a recession. The black community is in a depression. That's just how it is. So if seasonal affect disorder is a problem in general, it's a double problem for black people. We already under the gun. We already behind the 8 ball. We already wake up with an excessive amount of pressure sitting on our shoulders that other people just aren't. That's just a fact of life. But we deal with this. This is not complaining. This is not crying. This is not victimhood talk. This is just the truth. Victimhood would be giving up because of it. Complaining would be, I ain't doing nothing because of it. That's not what we do. That's not who we are. When you recognize the truth, when you recognize the reality, if a gun is pointed in your face, it's not victimhood to say there's a gun in my face. If there is a system in place to suppress you, to oppress you, you're not victim talk. You're not victimhood talking when you recognize that the system is there. Hopefully I'm preaching to the choir. If y'all are still tuned in, please like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. If you disagree with me, put it in the chat. If you disagree with me, leave a comment. But as I was saying, the black experience with seasonal affect disorder, we are already under the gun. We are already living in a system where there have been systematic attempts to depress us, to suppress us, to oppress us. Historical factors such as Jim Crow laws and redlining limit access to health care. So if we come to a system where we already have a smaller window of opportunity, a smaller door to walk through when it comes to health care, regardless of what you think about America's healthcare system, America's sick care system, the fact remains more African Americans lack proper health care access. And so if you are already dealing with stress and tension, and then the winter comes on and there is no sunlight, and so your body physically does not produce the amount of serotonin that you normally produce, well, what do you think is going to happen? So I say that to say the 5% that's documented as having seasonal affect disorder, that's simply because they were either wise enough, woke enough, smart enough, knowledgeable enough, or curious enough, and had access to the healthcare system where they could go and seek attention, seek help to discover this. That's only the documented. Because if you need serotonin to feel good about life in general, and your body only produces 50% of it during the winter, well, it's no wonder everybody is so freaked out about making sure they hang around family during the season, because that's the only way you're going to get that energy vibe boost, because your body ain't producing what it naturally is supposed to. Now, I might jump off into a tangent. We wouldn't be suffering from this if we were still back in the motherland. But that's another thing I already know. The vast majority of African Americans don't even like the word African American. You don't want nothing to do with Africa, let alone going back. I'm just saying, I bet your body would be different. If you need sunlight in order to produce the proper amount of serotonin, then it seems to me one of those tools I alluded to. I said if I do my job right, then I will be giving you some practical tools for coping. I can say, depending on your planning aptitude, you can get somewhere warm during the winter months. You can get somewhere where there's sunlight, where there's an excessive amount of sunlight during these lack of sunlight months, if you plan it out. At least some of us can. But again, I digress. I know I'm preaching to the choir. You already know about the historical factors with Jim Crow laws and systemic racism. You know, there's plenty of evidence. There's been plenty of research and documentaries and news reports about the implicit biases in healthcare. So even if you are smart, intelligent, wise, woke enough to go to the healthcare professionals and say, look, something ain't right. I don't feel right. I'm always tired. I'm fatigued. I could fall asleep in the middle of the day. You know, you get the wrong healthcare professional, somebody that's got some of these implicit biases, they just brush you off. You're just a lazy Negro. Go home. So for that, I would say if you do have the opportunity to check into the appropriate healthcare professionals, make sure you get one that's at least culturally aware. Culturally sensitive is what they call it. I would just specifically say go get you a black doctor, but I know a lot of y'all think that the white man's water is much better than ours, so go see who you want to see. So, you know, again, for us, for black people, we have a tendency of, you know, when we hear our culture is based on resilience. Our culture is based on resilience. And that's not a bad thing. We are a culturally resilient people. We always land on our feet. No matter how many bullets is coming at us, we dodge them and keep walking. But this push-through mentality often leads to overlooked struggles. I'll say it again. This push-through mentality that we have can often lead to overlooked struggles. So eventually, we're going to have to add some new tools to the kit. Now, in 2020, there was a study that highlighted the cultural emphasis on perseverance and how that perseverance prevented mental health discussions. So that's another reason why, I want to do this show. As I alluded to in my intro, we haven't got to a point where talking about mental health is cool. Well, talking about mental health is accepted. We're getting there. We are a lot closer to it today in 2024 than we ever were. But it's still a taboo. The name of that study was Black Mental Health and the New Millennium, Historical and Current Perspectives on Cultural Trauma and Everyday Racism in White Mental Health Spaces by Richard Majors et al. It was published in the International Handbook of Black Community Health, Mental Health by Emerald Publishing. So don't just think I'm sitting up here making this stuff up. There are unique challenges in the Black community, always have been, always will be, especially since we are fully invested in staying here in this country, no matter how hard, no matter how huge of an iceberg this Titanic of a country has hit. There's a stigma surrounding mental health. There's a lack of representation in mental health professionals. I think it's only but no more than 4% of psychologists in the US identify as Black. And even within that, you're going to have this little game, whether or not they're Black American. And this is not a shot. Don't even try that. This is not a shot. But if there is such a thing as a cultural sensitivity, then there are definitely some cultural sensitivities that a Black American psychologist might be a little bit more aware of than a Black psychologist not from this country or culture. That's not a shot. That's a fact, because it would be the same on the other side of the world. Let's say I'm a Black psychologist and I set up shop in Ghana. There's definitely going to be some cultural sensitivities I'm not aware of if my client is Ghanaian. So it's not a shot. It's not a dig. It's not barking up the tree of xenophobia, because I ain't with that. But anyhow, 4%. So what that really means in practical terms is if you want a Black psychologist, you better hurry up and get one. You better get online and find one quick, because there ain't a lot of them. Which means when we do find them, they're going to be booked till I don't know when. It's going to be hard to get in. So again, I say, see who you want to see who you need to see. Get some assistance. I don't care who you get it from. Yeah, me personally, I'm going to do my damnedest to find me a Black psychologist. Push comes to shove, I'll take a white one. If I need the help, if I need the assistance, give me, if you got something to give me and it's going to help me, I don't know, produce better, more serotonin, or just feel better for some other chemical production reason, look, give me the pill. But if I got to spill my guts, you better be culturally sensitive, or else, I'll get in back of the line. I'll wait my turn. So finding support and resources, seek professional help, therapists and counselors. You don't always have to have a psychologist. It depends on each person. Like, again, we talking about serotonin. This is biochemistry. So just having a conversation with somebody may not help. If the seasonal affective disorder gets so bad, because we're talking about 3 months. This is a 3 month, sometimes 4, maybe even 5 months. This is a long period of time. So it could be that now you're lucky, you're blessed if it's only seasonal affect disorder. You're blessed if you're in a position or situation where if you get a counselor and you talk to them and it begins to help, and you can maneuver and ride the wave of this horrible weather and its negative impact. Great for you. But again, seasonal affect disorder can lead to stronger forms of depression, clinical forms of depression. So again, I'm saying seek help. Don't just recognize that you are so drained and tired and fatigued that all you want to do is sleep and keep sleeping. Get online, and I'll give you a couple of sites. Get online and take a look. Look for something. Look for somebody. There's online platforms. Therapyforblackgirls.com for all my sisters out there. Loveland Foundation. You can Google that one. For all the brothers, Black Men Heal. Take a look at that site. Black Men Heal. They offer free therapy sessions for Black men. At least that's what I'm told. I haven't checked that one out myself. So if I'm wrong, let me know. Drop me a note in the comments if I'm wrong about their free therapy sessions. But there's another one, Brother, You're on My Mind, which is a mental health initiative targeting who? Black men. Again, like I said, we've come a long way, because it used to be that if you had anything under the umbrella of mental health as a problem, they just pointed fingers and said, you crazy cuckoo. There were no websites. The Association of Black Psychologists, that's another one. Psychology Today. Now, I will say I got a little bit of experience with them. Psychology Today, I really, not that I don't recommend, not that I don't stand by their other recommendations, but I have personally used Psychology Today. I've used it for research, and I've used it to look up professional therapists and counselors, et cetera, et cetera. And the reason that I'm harping on them a little bit more is because, like, my own personal story, so to speak, or experience, whatever. I first went to my insurance company. I go to my insurance company website, type everything in and say, I'm looking for a psychologist. They give me a list of names. Most of the names, you can't tell if they black or white. That's just what it is. I started looking for names like, typical. I'm like, I want a black sounding name at least. I know that sounds stupid. But I'm like, because I'll go through the list, and I did this with a psychologist. I did this with therapists. I did this with primary care physicians. And I get the same thing. I just get a list of names. There's no pictures. There's no links to websites. Maybe I got a sorry ass health insurance company. Maybe that's what it is. But okay, either way, and I'll tell you the name of my health insurance company because it's really kind of funny considering all of the stuff that's in the news. But so I'm looking at the list. I start making phone calls. Sometimes as soon as the receptionist or, as soon as the person picks up the phone, I'm like, this ain't gonna work. I already know. The person on the phone sound like, I ain't gonna say it, but anyhow, I just know this ain't gonna work. Sometimes I'm not too sure, and I'm bold enough, I'm blatant enough to just ask the question, is this an African American doctor? Is this an African American specialist? Is this a black person? Is this a white office or a black office? Are there any black patients that come here? I ask the questions. Now, I don't care what you call me. You can say I'm racist. I'm not, and you're wrong. You don't understand what racism is. You can say I'm discriminatory. You might have a point. You can say I'm a bigot. I'm not. You're wrong. You don't understand the term. You can say I have preferences. You might be right. But I will say this. We have a duty and responsibility to support our own. So that's one of the reasons why I say, if you think I'm racist, you're wrong and you don't understand the term. Because racism is not a preference for your own. If you think I'm a bigot, you're wrong. You don't understand the term. Because wanting to support your own has nothing to do with hating somebody. So again, I go through this process, and time again, I either get medical offices not black at all, or a lot of times what I get is, how dare you ask that question? I'm not going to give you the dignity to give that an answer. Click up. I'm like you done did something to me. That just means you ain't black. Okay, next. I'm going through the Rolodex. I get to the end. I'm like, I went through like 3-4 pages of doctors, still hadn't found a black doctor. So yeah, again, I'm like, okay, I need some help. I need a primary care physician. I need a counselor. I'm not joking. I'm not lying. I ain't fronting about it. So I'm like, okay, I just start making appointments. And we shall see. And then I came upon Psychology Today. And so when I'm looking, you can filter for ethnicity. Now, here's the funny thing to me. People act like, there's this whole big pot of confusion and contention over race. But then we're comfortable with the word ethnicity. I've heard all of the arguments. I don't care. I'm not giving up the word race. I'm not giving up the concept race. I understand that you can say, well, if we talk about ethnicity and culture, we're kind of, there is a black ethnicity. There's a black ethnicity. There's a black race. That's my Pan-African side jumping over them. What I'm saying is you can use Psychology Today to find a therapist of varying backgrounds and certifications and varying ethnic and racial identities. So you can find yourself a black psychologist, even though they only necessarily constitute 4% of the profession, at least according to that particular stat. If I'm wrong, let me know, tell me. I would love to be wrong. I would like to think that there's more, but again, that's the research I found. You can even filter for faiths. If you're a Muslim and you really feel like you could only talk to a professional who is of the Muslim faith, you can filter for that. Now, they ain't got all the faiths. It's not like you're going to find a Kemetic priest, you're not going to find a Babalawo, at least not easily. PsychologyToday.com is one of those practical tools that I said I would be able to impart upon you. Those are the ones that I'm really strong on as far as the tools. Counseling, therapy, psychologists. I ain't gonna lie, sometimes you need a pill, sometimes you need a prescription. I don't care what they say. It's not my fault that some percentage of white America got addicted to opioids and now they want to try to cut all of that stuff off. Sometimes you need a pill. Most of them people need to go to jail the same way they put black people in jail for crack, because ain't no difference. But again, I'm preaching. My Pan-African side is coming out. Self-care. All of what I said, self-care is still important. Now, if you find yourself falling asleep, kind of hard to care for self when you sleep all the time. This again is why you need to get up, get out, and get something. But there is such a thing as light therapy. I know it sounds crazy, and I ain't gonna say I've tried it yet. I haven't. I've been looking into it though, because I ain't got a pill. I don't have a pill, so I'm looking at light therapy because I can just roll on over to Amazon and pick up some stuff. Exercise and diet. Now, I kind of think, look, this is a little silly, only in the sense that, yes, of course, exercise and diet is important. But if you're already in a situation where you feel fatigued and you feel tired and you feel sleepy and you feel down, you ain't going to get up and run out to the gym. That's why I'm saying, if you're in that situation, seek professional help. Get a therapist, get a counselor, get a psychologist, get a pill. Get some talk sessions going to find out what's really going on. It might not even be seasonal affective disorder. I'm just saying, for me, I know it is. And I feel like if I know if I'm suffering from it, I know I ain't the only person in the country suffering from it. That's why I'm doing this show. And if somebody would have told me 10 years ago that there's this thing called seasonal affective disorder, if somebody would have told me 20 years ago that there's this thing called seasonal affective disorder, because my whole life, when December come, I'm like, man, screw it all. Leave me alone. I will hibernate. When I first heard about hibernation with bears, I was like, I must got some bear DNA in me, because every time December come around, I don't want to do nothing but sleep. And the only time I ever felt differently was when I coincidentally happened to be out of the country. And that hasn't happened a lot. And it hasn't happened on purpose. But there's been a couple of times when I've taken a trip to a Caribbean nation or an African nation, somewhere tropical during December. And it was like, it's 30 degrees at home and it's 80 degrees there. And I'm like, yo, I feel alive. And then I get back home. I don't want to do nothing again. It just hits like almost blam immediately. So I'm like, if somebody would have told me 20 years ago, oh, that's seasonal affective disorder, you need to call a psychologist. Who knows? I might would have gotten a pill that helped my body produce serotonin. It was the same thing. Like, if you have a problem with sleeping, you might have an issue with melatonin. Your body is supposed to produce the melatonin. If your body doesn't produce the right amount, or if it doesn't produce it at the right time, then you have a problem sleeping. So again, that's another thing that would contribute to seasonal affective disorder. If you already having an insomnia issue, and then the winter comes, so you're already down, you're already tired, you're already frustrated and irritable because you're not getting enough sleep. And then ain't no sunlight, so you're not producing serotonin. So all the happy feels, all the happy chemicals in your body ain't working right. You see how these layers keep stacking up and stacking up and stacking up? And you black, so every time you walk out the door, you got to check, is the police going to kill me today? Am I going to lose my scholarship because Donald Trump wants to get rid of the Department of Education? All these stressors. So I'm like, the least you can do is holler at a psychologist, holler at a therapist or a counselor, get some talk going, get a pill to swallow and see if it helps. If it don't, what is you out? I mean, you already paying for your health insurance. You already paying for your sick insurance. Charge it to the game. Recognize signs and triggers of seasonal affective disorder. I mean, I think I mentioned some of my own already. You feel irritable. You feel tired for no reason. Yes, you do have to fight it. You got to fight it of your own accord. You got to fight it with your own strength, mentally, spiritually, and physically. But ain't nothing wrong with getting yourself a pill. If you got high blood pressure, what you gonna do? You gonna will your pressure lower? No, you need a pill. You need to. There are things you can do to develop a healthy habit, like a sleep routine, journaling, and having creative outlets. But again, what I'm saying to you is, if sad hits you, you got to be aware that it's hitting you before you develop a sleep routine that's healthier for you. So you got to realize getting less sleep, or like in my case, even when I get a good amount of sleep, doctors say you need 8 hours. Even when I get 8 hours, I still wake up feeling tired. I have to realize this is a sign. So I need to go to the doctor. If I'm scared of going to the psychologist, scared might be a trigger word for you. We Black, we don't do that. If that's the case, then go to the primary care physician. The primary care physician may tell you, look, I done ran your blood and I done checked your vitals. You good on this part. My brother, you might need to talk to somebody. Let me give you a recommendation. I think they take your insurance. Go call them. Get yourself in a better habit, but recognize something's going on. They say that even journaling reduces depression symptoms by 25%. So if you don't want to talk to nobody, get a notebook. Write that shit down. You got to share it with nobody. It don't even have to stay in existence. Once you write it, you can burn it up. You can shred it, but do something. So that's my call to action to you. Do something. Write it down. Write down how you feeling. Write down why you feeling it. Why you think you feeling it. Get it off your chest. Even if it don't make sense, who cares? Just write. Hide it. Put it in a diary. Don't tell me Black men don't write diaries. Scarface had Diary of a Madman, and that was ever so poetic. So as I share my experiences, I think I've shared my experiences. If I haven't detailed enough, my bad, but I done shared a little something. I be tired all the time now. I'm getting sleep. I'm eating healthy. I done written down some stuff. I keep a notebook. Trust me. I write some stuff down, so I know what I'm talking about. Is anything a miracle cure? No. Nothing's going to be perfect. But you can explore those websites that I told you about. This will not be the only time that I deal with this topic, so please subscribe for more content on mental health and wellness in my commercial voice. I'll talk about this again. Seasonal affect disorder. Oh, I got one. Well, I already alluded to it, but yes, indeed. For me, I'll tell you what, probably the most expensive practical tool that I'm going to utilize in my fight against seasonal affective disorder is I'm going to get myself on an airplane and I'm going to get out of here for a little bit. I'm going to take all my equipment with me. I'm going to take my microphone, cameras, my computers. I'm either going to go to Jamaica and sit on the beach, or Ghana and sit on a beach, or I'm going to Senegal and sit on a beach. I'm going somewhere hot. I'm about done with this cold weather. That's my most significant. That's my most practical and my most realistic. Even if I get these pills, because I ain't got them yet. I'm still working. I'm still pushing. But even if I get these pills and my body starts to magically produce serotonin out the yin yang, I'm still getting on that airplane. I don't like the cold. And like I said, the cold has always been an enemy of mine. It's always depressed me. It's always made me feel lethargic and sluggish. I open up the door and I'm like, that's it. I'm going back getting to bed. I can't take it. My skin hurts. I'm being real. My skin hurts in the cold. I don't even like 50 degrees. I can deal with 50 degrees, but only because I've been in 30 degrees. I'll deal with a little bit of skin pain in the 50s. But once it gets below them 50s, that's it. I can't. I got lizard blood. I got lizard DNA or something. I'm shutting down. So if you like me, you need to get yourself out of the cold. So if you live in Virginia, If you live anywhere on the East Coast, and I'm like, I know people up north might be like, you crying about 50s. We managing 30s. I know like Chicago gets super cold. Minnesota, nah, I couldn't. I couldn't. Like, if you grow up there, then it's different. You kind of sort of get used to it. Just like I kind of sort of got used to the little bit of cold that we get in comparison in Virginia. But nah, I'm not doing that. It's way too much for me. I can't take it. So I am making my plans to go somewhere where my body will automatically start producing serotonin. And once I touch down, unless the ancestors call me back, unless the universe say, screw you, I ain't coming back for it, at least to the summer. Wyclef said, gone to November. I'm like, nah, gone to the summer. Be back in June. But again, so all in all, seasonal affect disorder is a very real thing. It affects everybody. So don't get it twisted. All I was saying is, even though it affects everybody, it's an extra negative bang on Black people. Take care of yourself. Go get some help. Talk to somebody, because we ain't got to feel like this. But that's my proper perspective on this mental health issue. And like I've been saying, like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Peace.
Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective.